Yeah, that was so I started that as like a company because I didn't really, I think, trying to think of the right way to say this. I generally try and stay behind the camera. I don't have any desire to be an influencer. I don't want everybody to know, like, to be about me. You know what I mean? I gained a lot of weight in that job, and I got up over 300 pounds. And, I just decided to do something about it. And I had heard about CrossFit. There was actually, every year we had training as a deputy, like in-service training, you'd have to go.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Carter Hall, and another fun podcast going on today. With me on screen with me, I have Frank Cruze with me. Man, Frank, thanks for coming on, dude. It's such an honor. I've had recently Ben Davidson on. He talked highly of you. So if someone like that's talking highly of someone, then like, man, let me reach out and talk to you. So I finally have you on the podcast. So thank you for coming on, dude. It's such an honor.
Well, I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Of course. So a little bit of like just through like I heard about Ben and talking to you, you sound like you have a cool journey how you got into media and just a
Mhm.
little tidbit. So I thought I hear it from the horse's mouth, I hear it from you, kind of like
Yeah,
pick your brain, so to speak, if you will. Um,
sure.
for you, like you had like pretty much a pretty cool background that led into media. Is that something like you want to maybe talk about maybe briefly?
Yeah, sure. I can talk to you about it. Going all the way back to like ancient times in the 1900s, when I was in high school, I was into, video production, and that was kind of what I wanted to do in life. Um, no social media or anything existed then. It was more of like filmmaking and making
Yeah.
movies and commercials and things like that. Um, One thing led to another. I wasn't the best student in college, and in my generation, you had to go to college, and you had to get a degree. That was kind of what was expected.
Yeah.
So I wasn't the best student. Kind of flunked out, and was looking for the next thing I was going to do. And I decided to join the sheriff's office in Tampa, and was a law enforcement officer. Just I had family that worked there, and joined up and was a law enforcement officer for 26 years.
Oh wow. That's pretty
Yeah.
interesting because like with you, like I have the same experience where like Um, I was born in '97. So with
Hmm.
my parents, I was obviously I'm a second generation college student. My mom
Hmm.
obviously graduated, so for her, I felt like at least for my parents, it felt like college was obviously the same thing. Where it's like education was a big thing. So like go to college, get an education is kind of like similar to what you were saying.
Yeah.
Whenever I went for something like obviously for media, not like you said, I kind of different, same thing, but kind of similar or different in the sense where like you didn't grow up with social media to where like I grew up with social media. So it's like so it's pretty cool to see both factors how like things overcome like things have progressed if
Yeah.
that makes sense to you. So it's pretty cool
Sure.
how you went like you said you went to Tampa right after
Hmm.
college.
Yeah. I was from Tampa,
Oh, okay,
grew
you
up
said
there
that.
my whole life. Yeah. And then I went to college at Troy University. It used to be called Troy State University in Alabama.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
And that was where
nice.
I went to
So
college. Yeah.
I remember Troy just coming with a Cowboys fan, and I believe Demarcus Ware went there for a little bit, if
Yeah.
I'm thinking right.
I think so. Yeah.
So so we're not here to talk about Demarcus Ware. We're talking about fun stuff you did. You're like you said, you were there for 26
Hmm.
years and you got into media. So
Hmm.
how was like after spending like more almost 3 decades of your life in being a deputy and all that stuff in law enforcement, how would you transition into media? Like obviously like how do you know like okay, I want to this is gonna be my new set path now because like
Hmm.
decades later you're like okay, media is gonna be my full thing now.
Yeah. Well, I never completely stepped away. I always did photography, like as a hobby. I
Oh
was a
really?
hobbyist with that stuff. Yeah. And did some video things. And then like the first digital camera I bought was probably 2003, like the Canon Digital Rebel, when the first like digital SLR started coming out. I had one of
Oh
those,
yeah.
and I traveled a lot as part of my work with the sheriff's office. I was also an instructor, and I traveled all around the country. So I would have a lot of downtime, and I would travel by myself. So I would go do photos and things like different places that I went, just kind of for myself for fun. Didn't know what I was doing. It was all crap, but it was fun either way. And then when I retired officially in 2019, prior to even retiring, I had started picking up the camera again and doing stuff with it. But then as soon as I retired, I kind of went, said, I'm going to do what I wanted to do, 25 years ago,
Oh
and
wow.
kind of got started that
So
way. And just like most people in CrossFit, I started in my gym, taking pictures of the the members and things like that.
That's pretty neat, man. So you
Mhm.
just so it started as a hobby, just a plain out hobby when you were working as a seraph and doing all the amazing things. You were just so it just basically it just started out like as a hobby initially, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. So was there anything in particular as like when you first initially started like is there anything like in particular like stands out like man, this is really cool. Like I photographed as a hobby, like before it became full time.
I mean, not so much. I always was kind of wanted to do video mostly, but it's, at the time it was easier to kind of get into photography. Now it seems like video is more in demand than photos sometimes. But
Yeah.
when I started, like I said, I was a member of a gym in Tampa, decent sized gym. And I started by asking the guy, hey, can I take pictures in here on Saturdays when they had the big group classes? And then that transitioned to, he liked some of the photos I was doing. And he's like, hey, what if I discount your membership and let you do social media for us? Then that transitioned to like, well, just handed me the keys to their social media
Oh
and
wow.
giving me a free membership and paying me. And then I was just sort of running that for them at the gym in addition to coaching and stuff part time there. Because I've been into CrossFit since 2012. It was the first year
Oh
I
wow.
started CrossFit. Yeah. And so it kind of like sprang from there. And then I started doing little local competitions. I reached out to some of the people that were local and I said, hey, can I apprentice under you, volunteer, just do it that way with the other local photographers that did it. And then kind of, just started building from there, meeting more people and kind of going from there.
Oh, sweet, man. So kind of like break it off a little bit. So a couple
Mhm.
paragraphs, a little bit back. So you just your local CrossFit gym that you're at,
Mhm.
you initially were just taking pictures of like the group, like different workouts and stuff like that. That led to you doing social media for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Just from, there's Saturdays, they'd always have like the group work or the partner workout, which is always a bigger
Yeah.
class on Saturday. It seemed like a lot of people would come in. So I thought it was an opportunity to get the variety, not just the people who come at the 5 a.m. class or the 5 p.m. class. You had a variety of people on Saturdays that seemed to get the most bang for the buck for the company. So I would come
Yeah.
in then and do photos. And then I started doing videos and making reels for them as once I kind of got the handoff to handle things and I've been and did that for them until I moved.
That's so sweet. And it's hearing that because like for you, was it like you mentioned earlier, like social media really wasn't, I guess, around when you were in college, but like
No.
learning, like you said, CrossFit, like taking pictures of the Saturday class, and like pretty much eventually it led you like you taking pictures at your like you said your Saturday class. Led to your social media like run with them.
Mhm.
What was that like? Was there any like a big transition phase for you, or was that pretty like where the owners were like, okay, this is like what we expect, or was it more like, well, let me rephrase this question. How hands on were the owners for you when it came to social media? Were they like, this is all your creative stuff, or they were like, okay, this is our vision, they can kind of go with that?
Well, I'm personal friends with the owner too, outside of CrossFit. I wasn't the first gym I went to, and it was
Oh wow.
so we were friends already before I even went there, and it gave me a lot of freedom with that
Oh
because of that. We were friends, and it kind of happened in stages. It started with me sending, taking pictures on Saturdays, and then just uploading them to like a Smug Mug album. And I would just send the owner the link and say, "Hey, here you
oh
go." And
wow.
I kept every week. I would just, or every not every week, but probably once or twice a month, I would go in there and do it. And I would just send him the link, and then he had basically a library of photos that he could pick and choose and make posts however he wanted. So he started having that versus just him having to walk around while he was coaching and taken away from the member experience. Their coach isn't a photographer; he's supposed to be a coach and coach him, and he was real big on that. So I took that kind of off his plate, having to deal with it.
Yeah, that's one less thing to do because like the gym I work out at in CrossFit Amarillo,
Mhm.
like you said, there's big thing to that thing like having their that relationship with the owner or whatever it's an owner or the athlete or coach and the member, it's like but you still see every once in a while that person with the camera rolling through. It's like you're just dead tired, and all of a sudden you see that camera
Mhm.
roll up like, oh, I got a extra wind catching, and all of a sudden when they back off, they
Yeah.
turn around like I am dead. I don't know if that's just me,
Oh
my
no,
mental
you're right.
state.
Everybody does it. You see the rower go a little harder. Their row
Yeah,
pace goes up and
for
stuff.
sure,
Yeah.
man.
So but we went from that to then eventually, he was like, "Hey, do you just want to post these?" And I'm like, "Well, I saw how he did the captions. I saw what he did. So he was like, if you want to start doing it, and that was kind of how we went from there. And then we agreed on a certain number of posts per week would be required if I took it over and did it. And so I
Oh
would
wow,
always, meet that and everything. Just kind of, he was kind of the person that gave me an opportunity to do something for compensation.
that's pretty cool, dude. It's a
Yeah.
pretty cool opportunity to like you saw it firsthand, like from his like
Mhm.
your friend, like it was an owner, like create something, and you're like pretty much giving you the keys to the kingdom. Like, hey, like
Yeah.
you're doing this already. You're just might as well just do it all, and you ran with it. That's pretty cool to hear
Yeah.
that, because like
Yeah.
that's a pretty big like as someone who's like you said who started out as a hobby. Now you're doing that on your
Hmm.
own. That's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
I must have been like at that time. It must have been a pretty cool feeling.
It was a lot of fun, and it helped me get more experience, and it gave me the freedom to kind of do, whatever I wanted. Because
Yeah.
I think we had a relationship that we trust. He trusted that I wasn't going to do anything to embarrass or mess up his business, which I didn't.
Sure. That's always a plus, right? You get a free membership
Yeah,
out of it, so might as well do some cool stuff with it,
sure.
right? That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So something you said earlier too, you said you started CrossFit in 2012.
Hmm. Yeah.
So kind of go back a little bit. So kind of go like you said, years past was how can I ask this? Were you an athlete growing up, or was like fitness always part of your life, or was CrossFit like the initial thing in 2012 that kind of brought you into the fitness world, so to speak?
Well, that's a good question. So for me, I was always athletic, played sports. I played football, ran track, did all those things all the way up through high school. And then in college, I did intramural stuff and things like that. But I kind of started slipping. And then once I got a job as a deputy, that's a very sedentary job a lot of times. You're in your car for 12 hours. Sure, you have moments of bursts of activity, but it's very easy to put weight on. And I had gained a lot of weight in
Yeah.
that job. And I got up over 300 pounds. And, I just decided to do something about it. And I had heard about CrossFit. There was actually, every year we had training as a deputy, like in service training, you'd have to go and they had sent somebody, one of our training guys, I guess in the early days of CrossFit, and he came and showed videos of it and was talking about this whole new thing. And that was the first I had heard about it. Was like at a interagency training thing, and I was like, "Oh, that looks too hard." But then it was always in the back of my mind. And one day I just got up and said, "I'm going to just go try and do it."
Oh wow. So that's just something that,
So
like you said, sitting in a cop car maybe for hours on end to like wanting to try something that was challenging. Was that? Do you remember your first like? I guess. Do you remember your first CrossFit workout per se? Like, what was that like? I guess going from like you said sitting sometimes with bursts of
yeah.
like, here and there to like having your first CrossFit experience. Do you remember that at all?
Well, I don't remember the first actual CrossFit workout, but the gym I went to had kind of like an onboarding thing that they did with you, sort of like a testing, and
Oh
they
yeah.
took photos of you and did all that. And then they had a thing where, you know what man makers are with the two
Oh
dumbbells, where
yeah.
you kind of do the burpee, you do a row with each one, then you kind
Hell
of come
yeah.
up into like a thruster at the end.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so their little test was 5 minutes of man makers
Oh god.
with 35-pound dumbbells. And
That's
it's so
horrible.
funny because yeah, I mean that's horrible if you've been doing CrossFit. But if you've never done anything, I walked in there and I think in 5 minutes I probably got 15 of them, 10 or 15. Like that's ridiculous. Like slow for a CrossFitter. You know what I mean? Now I look back, but that was right off the couch, overweight, and I was like, man, that's nuts. So that was my first introduction to it. Like there's no rest or anything. Like, yeah, we're gonna start a clock and you're just gonna start going and then you'll stop when the time runs out. Coming from like a traditional, 3 sets of 10 and you stand and drink water between each set, kind of at the bench press sort of history of working out to this was a eye-opening thing. But I loved it. I was in love with it right then.
Yeah, similar, kind of a similar story. Cause like, I started my first like kind of real CrossFit workout was in 2016, but I did Murph was my first
Mhm.
workout. But I say that as my first workout. I ran a couple meters, 100 meters, and died.
Mhm.
So I can't remember the rest of the workout for some reason. So I don't really
Yeah.
count that as my first CrossFit workout because I don't want to count that. I was horrible at it. I had to quit halfway through it. I was out of shape too. So
Yeah.
my first time actually starting CrossFit full time was in 2019, and getting back into it, like you said, my first workout was a death by burpees workout.
Hmm.
So like I didn't know what a death by workout was until it had to be explained to me from these coaches, CrossFit coaches, and they're like, "Okay, we got death by burpees," and having to explain it. Barely knew what a burpee was. He had to explain it to me, and I'm like, "Here's a burpee. Okay, you got a set time and
Yeah.
hit go." I'm like, and then like two or three in, I'm dying, like huffing and puffing. So I the same feeling like I probably got to like six, maybe something like seven, eight. I'm like, I'm out of shape. I wrestled in high school. I thought I was in shape, but
Yeah.
just having said like anything when you start out, it's like that was
Oh
those
yeah.
first experiences will help build you, right? So it's
Sure.
pretty cool to like know that I wasn't the only one who like
Oh
man
no.
makers. Man makers are definitely tough though. I like
Yeah.
they're when I see them, I'm like I don't want to do those ever. And I see
Yeah.
them again, I'm like, here we go, same old story, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was how I got started. Then I got addicted pretty quick though. I started doing like
Yeah.
local competitions and I competed for a while at it and had fun with it.
Oh really? So
So
how would you?
mhm.
Do you remember your first comp? Like, do you remember like going to your current first comp or
Yeah.
just competing in general?
Yeah, I did. I've probably done 15 different
Oh wow.
competitions, or maybe even more. But I've done
That's pretty cool.
Wodaplooza a couple times.
Oh
And
wow, you went to Wodaplooza. That's pretty cool.
yeah, as a master's individual, I made it one year. And then uh, on a team before you had to qualify, and they didn't have like an elite division, you just had RX. It was probably like 2014. And I
Oh
just
yeah.
did that one with some other guys. But that was a huge mistake. Like way out of my depth on that, with just because there were so many good people at Wodaplooza in the RX teams, which
Oh
is there
really?
still are now, because I mean, just people are fitter in general. But
So
back then,
what was that like?
when you did RX, you were on the floor with like games athletes back
Oh
then.
really?
Yeah, there was no elite division. That was the elite division, and that was, but you didn't have to qualify for it that first year. You
You
could
just
just
went
sign up.
or you just signed up for it
I
back in the
signed
day.
up, and then they invited, of course, the big names to get spectators.
Oh wow. So what was it like for you, like going as an individual? Like you said there was no elite, just RX. So
Yeah,
that was
when I did individual, I did as a masters, so that was
oh
different.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So what was that like going to Waterpalooza your first time?
Oh, it was like for me, it was like the CrossFit Games. Like it's someone of my level. That's a big deal, and it was hard. Um, I was happy to finish middle of the pack, the group, and uh,
Mhm.
it was an accomplishment for me. Just going from so out of shape, 300 pounds, couldn't walk a mile without like sitting down, to competing there was pretty surreal to be able to do that.
And that's pretty motivating just to hear that, like you said, because
Yeah,
I'm a bigger guy, obviously. So like he said, just seeing the like reaping the benefits of CrossFit, like having to lose weight if you just work out. Like there's those people just want to go in for an hour just to get a workout in and eat healthy. There's people like that like, who like y'all like I say y'all, I mean the Mayhem crew, all y'all who just who live, breathe, and like do everything CrossFit. And you like you said, you're going like this is obviously before you went to Mayhem, I imagine, right?
sure. Yeah.
Going to Wodaplooza. But this is pretty cool to hear that. It's pretty inspiring too. So that's pretty cool. Like, so you went to, you said masters and individual, and you went to RX as a team, right?
Yeah, but that was the first year I did it was
Oh,
the
really?
team RX. Yeah. And then the masters was after that. And then I did other little comps and stuff,
Oh,
you
really?
know, in the years. Well, because I mean that was like 10 years ago when I did Wadapalooza.
Oh, wow.
It was
So
quite a while ago.
that's cool. So was it like going to like for you? Was it like did it give you going to those Waterpalooza those couple of years, those times you did it give you any
Mhm.
confidence moving forward doing like local comps or anything like that?
Oh, definitely. Definitely just gave me confidence in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. How so? Like, is confidence in your working out ability or just your training, just
Yeah,
overall?
just, but all of it really, kind of a little bit of everything.
Oh, sweet. So were you still doing media? Like, were you still doing like videos and stuff at that time too?
Not at that time. Like I said, I started doing the media thing probably 2017, 2018, and then in
That's right.
2019 is when I went full time to doing it.
It's
It
cool.
was
And then
after I
how'd you get?
retired.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
How'd you get involved with Mayhem? Like, how far off are we speaking? Like going from Waterpalooza, like you said, from
It's
doing
funny. It was
competing in Water.
Wadapalooza. I met him at Wadapalooza when I was working in media.
Oh
It's kind
wow.
of funny. Yeah, that story. Wadapalooza, I guess, has got a lot. I've done a lot with that. But yeah, so after I was working full time, I had well, freelancing, different places. I had got picked up to do video for Wodaplooza 1 year for Loud and Live.
Mm-hmm.
And while
Oh
I was
yeah.
there, a good friend of mine, Carlos Bound, I don't know if you've heard of him or know him. He's one of the photographers and videographers that I've worked with a bunch. And he knew the Mayhem guys. He was freelancing for them. And I was working for Loud and Live. And I guess we just ran into each other in the lobby of the hotel. We're all staying there and just started chit chatting. But then I think it was Ben actually was having like a camera issue with his Sony camera. And because they had just switched to Sony.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's what I had always shot on. And like we're standing there in the lobby and he's like, oh, I'm trying to do this. I can't remember what the problem was. But I just like from memory, I said, all right, hit the menu, go down 2, hit the back button, go left. And he's like, oh, that fixed my problem. He's like, how did you know how to do that from memory? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good with these cameras. And it was just funny. They were all standing there kind of stunned. That was like my first introduction with them. And he's like, man. And I guess Carlos had probably put in a good word for me. And then I freelanced with them, prior to working here full time.
Oh, sweet. So just like just out on whim, had been probably not had that problem with the camera. Who knows
Yeah.
if you're still like working with Mayhem or not?
Yeah, it was just like the right time, the right place, the right time. And
Oh well.
I just think like Scott was standing there, I saw him looking at me, and I think they were like, yeah, this guy might know his stuff. Maybe, I don't know. I'm technically sound. I know that. That's kind of where my strengths are, like with the operating of the camera.
I guess so. You just it's on a whim, like you knew, like, oh yeah, just do this. Go to your settings and XYZ. You got it.
Yeah.
And you got it. So that's pretty cool that you just knew that just from memory. And he had it. Like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's so cool. To, like he's like he said, being technically sound. Like you said, that's
Yeah, that's kind of a strength of mine, I would say, is like my technical ability.
cool. So that's like just from years of experience working with a camera, being
Mhm.
behind a camera. That's what's like it brought you to that moment. Like, okay, do this, and it
Yeah.
just worked.
And I think my background in law enforcement and specifically on the SWAT team and stuff, it made me always very cognizant of knowing my equipment because there's so many things that are like out of our control, especially when you're, shooting an event. You can't control the lighting. You can't control like who's going to come in first place. You can't control the broadcast people standing, the judges. People are stepping in your way. I mean, that's just part of doing this job. You have to deal
For
with it.
sure, yeah.
But what I can control is that I know how to operate my camera quickly without having to look down. I have full batteries. I have memory cards. I have none of the things that are my job are going to be the problem. I mean, there's going to be problems that are going to happen. You can't help it. But I try to eliminate that, anything that's in my control being a problem.
Yes, sir. And that's really cool. Like it's really specifically true because like you can only control what you control. What you could you can
Right.
only control what you can control if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
all other stuff's like, I mean, you said you can't. Well, I can't speak. I can't speak. I can't control that. But like so, like you said, someone getting in your way, like standing in front of your way, like can't
Yeah.
control that. Like you said, a broadcaster or someone watching
Anything.
the
It starts raining or whatever. Yeah.
weather. Yeah, you can't control that. So it's just like being in the right place, right time. Hopefully, you get the best shot and the best outcome. Hopefully,
Right. If the stuff's messed up, it's not because I screwed up. It's going to
yeah,
be, that's generally the attitude I try and have with things. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm going to screw up sometimes, but for the most part, I try and make it like all the things within my control, I nail it. The exposure, the white balance, all of those things, making sure that you have all the equipment you need and that it's working.
yes, sir. I remember doing I remember filming my first wedding, and I'm like, do I have everything? Just all the stuff
Right.
you said controlling? Like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. Do I have it? This I was more like nervous than like make sure everything worked right. Just
Yeah.
being a ball of nerves. It's just going to your first event, whether it's Wodaplooza or your first wedding, your first this,
Yeah,
your first
sure.
this, not your first. That's really not to be your first. Just like anything. I'm the same way too. It's like filming or
Right.
photographing stuff. Just everywhere. It's like, do I have everything right? But yeah. So you said you did real estate and you still not real estate. You did freelance and you still sounds like
Hmm.
you do it every once in a while, right?
Yeah, I do still some. Yeah.
Cool. So you have something called is it Task Force Media Group?
Yeah, that was so I started that as like a company because I didn't really I think trying to think of the right way to say this. I generally try and stay behind the camera.
Mm.
I don't have any desire to be an influencer. I don't want everybody to know like to be about me. You know what I mean? That's kind of like a personal thing, that I just maybe it's my age or
Mhm.
whatever. I serve the client that hires me, not myself as much. But there is a balance of having to get your name out there. Nobody knows who you are.
Sure.
So I didn't want that's kind of why I came up with the name of a company. I wanted to be like a company, not me, if that makes sense. That was why I started the Task Force Media.
That makes perfect sense, man. So when is like you got a cool name behind it. Like you said you don't really want to be in front of the camera per se. Like you don't need to be, like you said. But for you, like when did you initially come up with your media group? Like like was that something that just like in your years of being like doing this as a hobby that you knew like when I retired I'm going to do my own media group, or when did this whole come about?
Well, what happened was I started doing this and then I was getting some work, actually earning a little bit of money. So I decided that I wanted to do things right and like
Mhm.
so open up a bank account, just kind of go from a hobby to a job and make it a real thing.
That's
So
cool.
that was why I decided to, get an LLC, make a company name, just set up just do everything where I was kind of running a business, kind of how I wanted to treat it like work. So
Yeah,
that was
go
my
from
purpose for that.
kind of go from a hobby and make it into a legit like living, so to speak, not a real thing, like like just doing something for fun, right? You're already doing it for fun, so why not make it a career out of it, right?
Right.
So so you were doing competitions and you're just doing CrossFit. Then you were or no, let me rephrase that. You're working as a sheriff and deputy and doing SWAT and all that.
Hmm.
Then you were kind of just doing photographs on the side and everything. And then once you
Hmm.
retired, you knew like okay, competing and all this stuff like that was going to be something that's going to be like English. I have a podcast and I cannot speak. I'm so sorry, Frank.
That's
Um,
okay.
so I need to slow down. Um, so is there anything? So like, what was it? Has there been something that you like along the way that like with your task force media group or just even mayhem that you've photographed or you videoed that you like one particular story that like, man, this is really cool. I'm here. I'm doing this or X Y Z. I never would have thought I'd be doing this when I was like a sheriff or anything like that or a deputy.
Yeah, probably I don't know, there's been a few moments like that were like kind of surreal that like, man, probably this like one of the first ones was when I got to shoot for Loud and Live at Wodaplooza. Like I
Mhm.
sort of made like a little checklist of things, like kind of a bucket list of things I wanted to accomplish when I started doing this. And I
Sure.
wanted to shoot some of the big competitions, Wodaplooza, Syndicate Crown, those the bigger like semifinal level competitions. And I've been able to do that now. I've shot Wodaplooza multiple times. And then another one on my list was the games, which I've done that a few times now as well. And that was a moment I think when I freelanced. The first time I shot the games, I was freelancer and got picked up from Mayhem to work with them as a video guy. It was Rich's last year competing on teams,
That's
so it was kind
cool.
of cool to go and be part of that final his final year. That was kind of a surreal moment, that I accomplished something that I set out to do from just walking in shooting photos on a Saturday at a gym to 4 years later I'm at
So
the
you're filming
games.
Red's last game. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as the I keep changing. Some of those bucket list items. You keep adding stuff to it. So once I got here, I'm like, I'd really like to shoot internationally as well. So last year I went to Scotland and shot the Rogue
Oh,
Invitational, and there's other opportunities for Mayhem, I'm sure. For international uh, jobs as there would be as a freelancer as well. But it's just things like that are kind of surreal moments, like little milestones that I've tried to hit.
wow. So it's always so the list is always evolving. It sounds like you're just
Sure,
constantly like
yeah.
you're like it's like, oh wow, I've done this and it's really awesome. So you just like you said, going to Scotland, like doing international stuff, like doing the Rogue Invitational, just stuff like that. Like the list is always evolving for you.
Yeah, yeah. I always try and see what's next.
What's next, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like you said, like what was that like just for you? Like you said your first, I don't know if it's your first one, but just filming international, like you said in Scotland for the Rogue Invitational, because I watched that, and I'm like, this is pretty
Mhm.
cool to watch some of these events go down. So like, was there anything like what was this that like you said just doing it as a hobby out of a whim, like to like you said doing
Yeah.
Saturday classes, doing social media. Now you're excuse me, now you find yourself in Scotland of all places. What was that
Yeah.
like for you? Like what was that? Just kind of take me to your experience.
Well, that was a lot of fun. I mean, it was exciting. Me and Ben actually went together for that
That's
trip, and it was fun. I mean, all those trips or all the events like that, like whether it's Wodaplooza, Rogue, Invitational, Syndicate Crown, any of them, there's just off the top of my head I can think of the ones in California that I've been to. They all present different challenges, whether it's the venue, it's got a layout that's hard to do. And it's always, to me, that's a lot of fun. Like figuring out how you're going to get the good shots and do stuff, and overcome the challenges. Because there's always going to be a challenge, whether it's the lighting or the location or anything, your access, where you can go, what angles you can shoot from. So
yeah.
that's always fun to me. And Rogue was another one of those, completely different. Just getting to the venue and you drive on the wrong side of the road there, everything like that. Like there was so many things that go into it that you don't think about.
Yeah, I would always be nervous because like driving the wrong side of the road is always one thing. It's like just trying to get to the venue to do something you love. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I hate driving the wrong side. It's just I never would have thought about that either.
Yeah. Money and exchange. I mean, it's an international thing. There's a different stuff for all that. So it was
Yeah,
good.
man, that sounds pretty cool. That
Ben
you,
did all the driving, by the way. Ben did all the driving.
oh really?
I was like, you're driving, Ben. I'm not doing any of that.
Like, that's all on Ben. It's all on him, right? It's
Yeah.
whether
I'm
if I
like,
get
I'm
there
not
or not.
driving. But the rental car was in my name. So I got the tickets mailed to me.
I just have been like have him like, hey, you got that ticket money, man?
Yeah. We'll be all
Kidding
right.
though. Maybe I no, but for you personally, whenever you do like you film, like is there a specific like Canon or not Canon, but Sony or either like a certain equipment that you love? Like this is my go-to. Like it just feels like putting on like a baseball player, like using a glove or whatever, like a certain thing. Like is there something for you, a particular like, oh, I love doing this. Like this is my favorite equipment,
Yeah.
my favorite camera, this or that.
So for me, I'd say I get that's like a different kind of answer. So number one, like the one that I would get the best footage, like solid, I know how to do it. I don't have to look down. I can close my eyes and use it. Will be my FX6 with specifically how I have it set up and rigged out and everything.
Yes, sir.
Um, and then the camera I love using the most would be any of the Black Magic cameras. I just prefer those. I just like the image I get out of them, and I just like the experience using them. But if it really counts, I'm going to take that FX6 with me because I know I just know that camera so well because I've shot so many things with it.
So you know it like the back of your hand, pretty much. You just
Yeah, that camera is so well,
wow.
very
So
easily. Like I'm very confident with that camera.
and how long have you been using it for? Do you think, if you were to guess?
I pre-ordered it when it came out, so 3 or 4 years. I mean, I
Oh
was
wow.
one of I ordered it as they announced it and had it because
That's
I
pretty
was
cool. So
shooting Sony already.
oh really? So is that I can't speak. So well, I mean, when you go do like real estate stuff or just stuff in general, like your your freelance stuff, that's the word. Is that what you pretty much you shoot with normally?
It depends. Like so with other freelance jobs, I especially like real estate, I've done like a lot of high-end real estate stuff, like luxury listings. And with those, I don't feel like there's as much pressure because I'm by myself. Most of the ones that I've done are empty. Like the house is furnished and everything, but they're like short-term rentals, like an $8 million Airbnb at the top of a mountain, something
Oh yeah.
crazy with like helicopter pads and stuff. So I usually the agent will send me the door code and I have the house as long as I need it for the day. So with those, I'll just try different stuff. Sometimes I shoot black magic. I have a red Komodo for a long time.
Oh
I sold
wow.
that, but I would shoot them on a red
Pretty cool.
just to kind of mix it up and try different things.
So you're using just whatever different stuff to make sure
Yeah,
like you're
I don't
using
care.
you don't have like a go to like really per se when you're doing like stuff like that.
No, I mean I'm not like brand loyal. Like I don't care. The Sony's work best for me for right now, for especially for CrossFit and stuff. But to me the cameras are just tools, and they have different strengths and weaknesses. Certain brands are different, and the experience of using them is different based on the brand too.
Yes, sir. That's pretty cool too. Like I think when I first started, I remember like using like in high school, using like a little like flip camera thing to now like using like a Canon Rebel. It's just like now there's people out there who like use all this cool stuff. I'm like the man, if I just I was want to say if I won the lottery one of these days, you would see like a whole legit like studio of like of equipment, but like I just you used to see my list. It's horrendous because like it's so long of all the stuff I want because like but for you like you said they're tools like you said there's different strengths and weaknesses, right?
Right.
Cool. So before you head out of here, I don't want to take too much of your time in. But before you head out, I was gonna say if there's like a kid out there or someone, anybody, not really a kid, but anybody in particular, like from kid to adult, who was like you thinking about getting into media or CrossFit or anything like that, what advice would you give them? You can pick either one if you want to.
Yeah, I would say, someone looking to get into CrossFit media, I think the way I started was good. I mean, it worked for me. I would say, if most people are into that, go to a gym, probably, or have local gyms in the area. Just go volunteer to take photos for them or videos, make reels or whatever, with whatever equipment you have. And, hone your skills that way. And then one of the things that I did that I found a local photographer that was in the CrossFit space or videographer, and I'd reach out to them and offer my, hey, I want to learn to do this and come shoot for them or shoot with them. Sometimes it would be paid, sometimes not. What I didn't do, and I see some people do, it kind of bothers me because CrossFit pay in general for media is pretty low, just because there's not a lot of money in general in the sport. That's why I've done a lot of like real estate, commercial work for corporate and things like that, which actually pays really well. I would say don't shoot for free for brands or for companies. That would be advice I would give someone. Now, if somebody like, I reach out to Carlos Bound and like, hey, I'd like to volunteer and be on the Pensacola Beach Brawl media team. He does. I don't have a problem with that. But if it's like, hey, I want to contact, whoever, a brand, Tier, I see you're wearing a Tier shirt, and I'm going to go, travel halfway across the country and shoot a video for Tier for free. I just think that's a mistake.
Yeah.
To do that, like, you know what I mean? Just
sense,
because I want to be able to say I shot for Tier, but at the end of the day, I mean, you're not really helping yourself or anybody else when you do stuff like that, because they're just going to get the next free guy next time,
Sure.
So I just feel like, work for other, like apprentice under other photographers or other people or videographers, people that you want to work with. And then eventually the brand stuff will happen.
Heck yeah, man. That's some great advice. And just hearing that, like you said, just getting your name out, just getting experience, really. Just don't do it for free, but not per se, but just like getting your name out there and all that.
Yeah.
Fun.
I mean, you can work for other photographers for free and stuff like that. But, within reason, and just be smart about what you do. And
yes, sir. And
don't be a jerk. Be nice to everybody. You never know how it ends up. Just always be nice.
Yes, sir. Before you head out, how can people get a hold of you with Task Force Media Group? Like if they want to like contact you for any freelance work, how do they reach out to you?
I'd say for my Instagram, which is, Task Force Media Group. Taskforcemedia.com was taken, so I had to add the group on there. So Task Force Media Group. And also it made me sound bigger when I was starting out. People thought like I was working for a group. And I'm like, yeah, that group, that's just me.
As you see, I am the group.
Yeah, I fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Man, it sounds like you got to sometimes, right?
Yeah, sometimes you got to do it a little bit.
Cool, man. Hey,
I was trying to get corporate jobs too, so you had to do that with corporate. You know what I mean? They didn't want to hire one dude. Yeah.
One group. Hey, can you meet with a group? Yeah, I can play meet you sometime. Yeah.
Yeah, our team can come help you.
Our team. Like, where's your team at? You're looking at it. Yeah. Frank, thank you so much for your time, man. It's such a fun time talking to you, chatting with you. But
absolutely.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Of course, thank you for coming in and making time out. Everybody listening, great talk to Frank with all your freelance needs and everything like that. Peace out, Frank. I cannot thank you enough. See you later.
Oh, thank you. See you later, buddy.
See ya.
My mind wants to go overthinking.